Hello!
Hello.
This is our podcast, Messy, Mortal and Magnificent. I'm Jessie.
I'm Alison.
And we are excited. We are going to forewarn you that this will be a learn as we go type experience.
Yes, we're diving in.
We'll eventually have a really fancy studio and all the lights and everything. But for now, here we are. We're going to briefly introduce ourselves and then go even deeper into introducing ourselves. But this whole podcast is basically around death, but not in the way that most people think. Like, we are exploring grief, but really the whole background of this is to explore life after death. And I don't mean heaven. I mean your life after experiencing what I call like the death. And what I mean by that is, I've experienced lots of death, but there was the death that changed my life.
Yeah.
Completely. So I'm going to let Ali start.
Okay.
And because I love to speak, but I'm going to let someone else.
Okay. I'm here because I lost my husband to cancer in April 2023. It was a very fast illness. He got sick at the beginning of March. He was gone by the end of April. No prior warning at all. So it was entirely shocking. I'm not sure how we all got through it, to be honest. I have 2 kids. It was really, really difficult time, and it totally upended my whole world. It's a bit of a blur thinking back on it now, actually, the whole thing. I know I wrote down a lot at the time because I thought it would be good to have it later. Let's go back and read my notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really difficult. It was really frightening, absolutely terrifying to lose my partner. And I found afterwards that it was difficult to talk to people about it because I think a lot of people think that grief has to be one way.
Yeah.
Or they have their own perception of how it should be. So I didn't feel very free to talk about my grief in the way that I wanted to until I met Jess.
Love to talk.
And then I could say all the things and not feel judged. And it was the start of me really coming to terms with the death and embracing the grief for what it was.
Yeah.
So I was staring at Instagram one day and found a video from someone, and it was Jess.
Lots of piercings at the time.
And we met up. You came down to see me.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked, and we've been talking ever since.
Non-stop.
And laughing and crying.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of the taboo off grief and dying for me, and living after the loss of a loved one as well, I'm really grateful that I met you. And I'll talk about it more. But
we'll go in. Oh, you're going to hear a lot of us. I'm Jessie. So basically, we're going to do I'm autism ADHD as well. So you'll notice my listening face.
Yes,
my listening face.
I have one too.
And us trying not to interrupt each other.
Yes,
me.
Yeah, we're both autism ADHD,
which came from grief or autistic awakening. However, my background was care work. Death seemed to follow me. Death was everywhere in all my care work, home care. Just from the moment I went into care work, death has seemed to follow me around with different people. I've experienced so much variety of death. And this is what I talk about all the time, is the one death, though, that changed my life forever. And that was my dad's. My experience with that was that I was my dad's carer. So my dad had dementia. And, the reason me and Ali, it's fascinating. Our grief experience is so different. And yet what was uncovered because of it and the way that our life changed is quite similar. Or, the discoveries and stuff and the feelings and the process was quite similar. But I was my dad's carer. So me and my family were grieving for years. But when my dad actually died, it was COVID. There's so much around it. You know, he had 10 people at a funeral. Dad was so popular. That would have been out the door. Party central. So it still feels like they didn't happen. You know, the actual funeral didn't happen. But when Dad died, I completely, I just spiraled into this darkness. You know, like we have said before, it's like the death that pulls the rug. And for me, I could not get my head actually around it, even though I had years to actually prepare. It felt like someone had pulled this trapdoor, actually, and I had just fallen into this complete darkness, shadows, you know, landed on this little floor and being like, Dad? Hello? Dad wasn't there. It was just all the shadows, all the trauma, all the darkness. And I was a little child. And that's the only way I can describe it. Was I was suddenly a very small child. And, you know, life is moving on. For us, we can kind of talk about different things. That there was a plus side to COVID for me, that life stopped for a lot of people when it stopped for me, you know, but I was not prepared, and I thought I had experienced death, but nothing shook me like that one. I felt very seen by my dad, and I felt very protected, even though my dad, like at the end of dementia, you know, was quite frail. He was small. And when I laugh when I say I feel very seen by my dad, because he would call me a handsome young man, but I was still handsome.
And he was still here.
Yeah, I still had Dad's energy. And there were, you know, this is where we talk a lot as well, is that the luxury of just missing someone isn't what, you know, when people say they're grieving, people think they really miss that person. That's a luxury if that's your grief.
Yeah.
Just missing someone, you know, because we all know without grief, life is actually quite hard. You know, it can be.
Yes.
If you're having a great life and you experience grief, it's painful. If life is difficult and then you're experiencing grief, you're like, the fuck is this shit? Fuck. Excuse me? What? And, you know, life is moving on, and people, I think for me, that was when I completely, and I use the word unplugged from life. I haven't plugged back in, which was my autistic awakening as well. You know, I was diagnosed, it was alarmingly obvious, and it has completely changed my life, and maybe to understand myself, being like, that's actually incredibly obvious now with ADHD autism. But that came from being completely submerged in pain like I couldn't understand it, pain like I've never known. And yeah, so this is why we talk. Now, me and Ali have a nice dark sense of humor. So, you know, we want this podcast to be not like, oh, and everything was sad all the time. And, you know, because here's the truth. You know, when my dad died, I said, no, that's it. I will never care for anyone ever again. I was a carer, you know, like, and I said, absolutely not. And now I'm an end of life doula, working around grief and trauma, because I love to help people. But I always kind of say, if you're able to work in the area of death, you should, because not enough people do it. And there isn't enough people who are very comfortable in it. And that has come from embracing grief, accepting it, and accepting my own mortality.
Yes.
Because when I spiral, something in me goes, we're just assuming that we've got time to worry about this.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it doesn't scare me. I embrace it. I go, okay, do you know what? What if?
Well, I think when you embrace it as well, you're able to see the gifts that it brings too.
Yeah.
Because it does.
Yeah.
It actually does.
Like, we're so like, I love you. I love you. I love you.
You're amazing.
You're amazing. Do you know you're amazing?
Yeah.
Just so you know. Yeah, because when you accept life's too short, life is too short. We all just assume that we've got all this time, and you may not. And it's finding that balance.
Yes.
You know, it's like, live each day as if it's your last, but it mightn't be, you know. Well, hopefully it's not.
That's a better attitude.
Yeah. You know, but just in case. Do you know what I mean? Don't go off.
That's why we're doing podcasts today instead of Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah, perfect. We want this to be very interactive too. We want people to write in. We want people to write their experiences. We would love to talk about all the taboo stuff as well. and not necessarily not taboo, but things that people struggle to talk about. Here's a very, well, not a lighter one, working as a carer. So this is something that people may want to write in about. Again, we keep you anonymous. Working as a carer, or even not, and just seeing someone suffering. This was something that comes up and people struggle so much, is wanting your loved one to die. And that's the most pain I can experience when I want this to be over. And it's not, you can't save them. And that is the most conflicting emotion ever. It's like, I need you to die now because I'm suffering, you're suffering, everyone's suffering.
Yeah.
And yet you're not prepared for them to die, and you don't want them to die. You're like, I'd hope you would get better, but it's not happening. And I've been grieving for, in my experience, I've been grieving for years now.
Yeah, I found that with my mum. When my mum died, it was actually when I got the call, I think I said to my sister, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because she had been sick for so long.
Yeah.
And she had dementia too. And it was...
No life.
Yeah, no life.
No, my dad was suffering. Yeah. We were all suffering. And, it was horrible. And yet when it happened, I was absolutely distraught.
Yeah.
I couldn't cope. But
that's such a conflict to experience that feeling of...
because then people, if you voice this, I want my dad to pass, right? People will think that when they pass, you'll be like, oh, thank God that's over. And you're like, no, it's like, I wanted him to pass so I could actually begin the grief that was inevitable.
Yes.
Which was worse than I even expected. But when I went through it and I embraced it, I've come out the other side totally different.
Yeah.
Like totally, completely different. And we're going to talk about topics as well, like relationships during grief. And then for Ali's is having a new relationship after, and the way people seem to have, it's like a mixed opinions on, these are things that we're going to talk about, because my mum got into a relationship and people were quite surprised that I was like, well, no, she shouldn't be alone. My whole family fell apart over, grief, but we've come back together, and, we're going to talk about these things too, that, grief uproots the trauma. And I know me and my mom, like it was our own trauma speaking. It wasn't even the grief. We didn't realize. And thank God we're close. Like, thank God we are, back together, but families split up, families, grief can be so intense.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about all of this. So we want people to write in. Write in, email us.
Tell us all your stories.
Yeah.
All the stuff you don't want to say.
And the funnies too.
The funnies.
Yeah.
Oh, we need funnies.
I love the funnies, yeah. So even when my dad was dying, my dad had sort of a habit of like playing Lazarus, where he'd be like, this is coming to an end, and then he wasn't, which means we didn't actually have palliative care in place. We will go into, like, my dad's actual experience in hospital was traumatizing itself. But when I think I can't remember if I rang or I texted my sister. I think it was text because I couldn't get through. But like, I was like, Dad's dead. And we're like, but he may not be. You know what he's like? Wow. We were like, me. Oh. But the thing about dark humor is it's like your brain, for some people, it's just giving you time off. It's like, this is so painful. Crack a joke. It's not inappropriate. It's like, I'm in so much pain.
That's actually a totally normal trauma response.
I'm in so much pain. I need to breathe here for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were cracking jokes around Dad's body, but he'd have loved that.
Yes.
He'd have loved that. Like, absolutely. And there are other people that are like, what? They're like, well, you're just not part of the fam. You wouldn't get it.
It's not funny when you do it.
How dare you? Someone else make jokes. But I love dad jokes. Do you know what I mean? Yes. I love, like, me and another friend, like, he's lost both his parents. But, we'd be like, I was like, well, I lost my fucking Trump. You know what I mean? You win. And we would do it, but it'd be like, well, it's just, I don't have a dad. I don't have a dad. Whatever. But it's like, it's your own humor. And I think people shy away from that too.
Yeah.
And it's the healthiest thing. I say it's like dark chocolate.
I've noticed
it's healthier.
My kids were, probably at the funniest in the months after John died, with the grief humor.
It's like a mixture of, like, what is that, hysteria? Like you're nearly like, but it's healthy. It's a break.
Yes.
It's a break from the pain. It's a break from the pain. And I think that's what we talk about as well, is like, we're going to, there's so much that we can talk about within this. And I'm trying not to touch on every topic like we've been trying to do the whole time.
We'll take it one episode at a time.
Topic by topic, hopefully.
We'll try to. We can't guarantee it.
But, what we aim to build here is free-flowing conversations, because I don't want these to be serious discussions. We're going to talk about even planning your own death, facing your own mortality. That it doesn't have to be, if you're talking to your loved ones about your wishes, it doesn't have to be lighting a little candle saying, gather around everybody, but it's small things like people don't even realize, like, oh, I've time to think about that, but you mightn't. And it's not necessarily the financial stuff. It's even like, me saying, don't you dare have me pale in that coffin.
Yes.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. And, don't dress me in that. And then say something happens, I'm in an accident and I'm in a coma. This is my verbal will here, right?
Yeah.
I want my feet warm, but socks off in the bed. Someone wants their cozies on. Hair up. Yeah. Don't let anyone come visit me if you haven't made sure I don't have any like beard hair. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want like a little fucking, do you know what I mean? Make sure like that my mustache is gone.
Now everybody knows.
They know. Listen, I'm my father's daughter. I got his jawline and the rest. We're only talking, I have my dad's white eyebrow hair. Oh, thanks, Dad. So kind.
But I think those conversations, it's really important to have those conversations. And it's something I told all my friends after John died, because when I brought stuff up like this with John, he'd just go, it's too morbid.
Too morbid.
We're not having this conversation. It's very morbid.
If I don't have this conversation, that means someone going to visit me and you haven't made sure I haven't got a mustache. How dare you?
So with John, it meant that we were having the conversation. It was the last conversation we had. So I had to grab him while he was lucid in between doses of drugs to find out what his last wishes were, what he wanted for a funeral, what he wanted after the funeral. So it was a really difficult conversation to have then.
Yeah.
It would have been much easier if he had just listened to me, but listen,
such
his life. He should listen to his life.
And as some people know, I would be such an advocate for voluntary assisted dying. And this is another topic, but I want to explore it very openly. So, that will be another day. But it's when you've gone through what I went through and I saw my dad suffocated. I watched my dad suffocate. Me and my mom just watched him suffocate to death. There was no saving him. The legislation that would be brought in, he still wouldn't actually be eligible for. Okay. Like, that's how tight it is. People think it's a slippery slope, as if you're creating like a walking clinic. But I feel very confident talking on the taboo subjects that people struggle with, because we do need to talk about it. My dad deserved a better ending, and it was possible, but it's not in legislation. And it's about people understanding what it is. And it would be a whole topic on its own.
It is.
It is.
Maybe we could link in.
Yeah.
Any websites.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
On this one, just to have a look.
Yeah. And it's because it's one of those things that I didn't think too much about it until it was on my doorstep. And then it was very distressing. But I often think about my own, that like, if dementia's in my future, would I like a choice? Yeah. After watching what happened to him, yes. And I think people need to realize as well, is that's a choice. This isn't like that you have to. You can refuse. But I understand this is, for a lot of people, they're against it. And then I went speaking about what it actually is, and they're like, oh no, I'm for that.
Yes.
And when I speak about what it actually is, they're like, oh, well, that's different. And I think people fear that you're like creating a way for people to end their lives. And that's already happening.
Yes.
That's not what you're creating. You're actually preventing unnecessary suffering that's happening. And I think if you had seen what I had seen, you would understand what, and so I will go into a little bit of detail another time about my dad and his treatment in hospital. And the reason is because people are experiencing the same things with the HSC. And I don't blame the staff. I love nurses. I worked in healthcare. I don't blame the staff, but it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. And it absolutely led to his death. But I'm babbling onto something else. But listen, we want to talk about everything, and we want to build a community where it's just normal chats. Normal chats every day. You don't have to be somebody that has experienced grief, but it's to, even if this is just your own mortality.
Yeah.
I honestly love it. It grounds me.
It really does.
It grounds me when I'm spiraling, even today. Actually, that coffee grounded me today.
Yeah.
A sip of coffee, and I was like, do you know what? Everything's actually okay.
Sausage roll helped,
yeah. But it helps to ground you because, when I do step back, I work in grief and end of life all the time, and I forget I'm mortal. And I step back and I go, I'm not guaranteed this. I'm just assuming that I will live for all these problems to come in.
We're going.
We're guaranteed we're going at some point. And I go, does this really matter? No.
Yeah.
And it helps me to, it's not that you don't address the issue, but it helps me to ground myself on it and it takes the, I suppose, the fire from under it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people find facing their own mortality really terrifying. And I think the more we talk about it, the less terrifying it is.
Yeah, I'm not scared of my own death.
Neither am I.
I am sad for everyone else because what a loss. Do you know what I mean? That's terrible.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I've said this to you before that, when people are like, she wouldn't want you to be sad. I do. I want you to mourn me. Not for a long, long time, but at the funeral, like I want to see when people find out that better cut you. And like, I want like where you're nearly at the funeral. That's what I want.
Okay.
Yeah. Noted. Yeah. After that, then no, it's fine. And I said, I'll be like, you'll know when I'm around. Your cupboards will be open. All of them. Be looking for a snack. Every cupboard open.
Feathers everywhere.
Like a flower girl. Yeah. You'll know. It won't be gentle. It won't be one. It won't be mistakable. A flock of robins attacking you. But yeah, no, I don't fear my own.
No, neither do I. And we've talked about this. I did a hypnotherapy session many years ago around my own death. And he walked us through our own deaths. And it lasted, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And
it's a long death.
It was the most life-changing thing ever.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't really thought about it too much because I didn't want to.
Yeah. What?
But having done that, I'm absolutely love my life.
Yeah.
But if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, no, I go unafraid.
Sure, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But I'm not worried about death coming whenever it comes.
Yes.
I'm living and I'm having a good life.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Like my dad's death, I had no beliefs really until my dad died, and that did lead to a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
So that does soften the fear of death. But I often say to people, and they're like, but what if you're wrong? I'm like, well, I won't know. I'll be dead.
Yeah.
So I could be like, I'm about to pass over. Don't know. If there's nothing there, at least I was like, yeah, gone.
This is so true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of various different beliefs around it as well. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what I believe happens.
I believe too much.
You're gone.
I believe too much.
Yeah. John's gone.
I'm like, where are we gone? Anyway, but that's for another.
Yeah.
That's not even for this podcast. That's our own chats.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
we're here. We want to hear from you.
And it's about, embracing. That's what I say. When I talk about life after death, I don't mean heaven. I mean now. Life after grief.
Yes.
How you actually you can be in extraordinary pain and have this beautiful life all in one, and people don't know you can have more than one emotion.
Yes.
And you can grieve heavily and live life to the fullest. And that's what we're trying to show. And that's what these conversations are about, because the more we speak about it, the more you will feel open to say the things that you thought you couldn't say, and have the best days. And then if the next day is hard, you embrace it, because another day could go up. And that's what this is about, because you get to go with the flow of your grief rather than what you think society, because, in certain offices, you got 3 days off. Some have gotten a lot better, they give you proper time off, but you know, you'd get more time off for surgery nearly than you can for grief.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, if you were in a car crash, you know, you'd be off the road. You'd be in the hospital for a lot longer. You'd be taken care of. But grief, you know, the complete total heartbreak, like absolutely, could be a trauma as well surrounding it.
Yes.
And you're kind of expected to
plow on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So probably try and wrap up. Otherwise we'll keep going.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the email will be attached. Or if you know either of our pages, you can DM us on Instagram. I'm going to put links up and stuff on TikTok and whatnot. But yeah, so welcome, buckle up, and, you know, write in with anything that you want us to talk about, because we'll talk about anything. We will talk about anything. Thank you.
Thank you.